In this video, I'm going over Mythic Plus Halls of Infusion, teaching you the route to get 100%, but also going over every single mob, what their abilities are, what to avoid, interrupt, and stun to help you clear Halls of Infusion in no time. If you guys enjoy tips and tricks like this, be sure to subscribe to this channel and check this content out live on my Twitch channel where I do Mythic Plus with the community. Now, in this video, do know I'm not going over boss mechanics. That'll be in the next video where I'll be going over all the bosses, their individual mechanics, and what to do from the perspective of a tank, healer, and DPS, and all the advanced tips and tricks. This video, we're just going over the route. Let's dive right in. Also, if you're looking for a super easy Mythic Dungeon Tools route, I'll put a link in the description so you can follow the exact one I used in this video. All right, when you first put your keystone in, obviously the timer starts. When you go through the wall, there's a few things to note. First of all, in this room, in the PTR, some people did some testing where you could walk right down the middle and actually avoid these two mobs. That is no longer possible. We tested this. If you walk through, some people think they haven't pulled because these mobs will actually start an RP and they'll actually start fighting and talking to each other. And then after about like 20-30 seconds, then they will come to you. Don't get caught off guard. You have to pull one of these. I recommend the one on the right. We also tested it with a Warlock gate. You cannot skip through it. The only way to get through here would be with obviously with a shroud from a rogue or invis pots. But remember, if you do that and then you die, then you won't be able to come back unless the rogue or you have more pots. This pack right here will literally teach you everything you need to know about this entire next hallway. Now, if we pause right here, you'll see there are 4 different types of mobs here. The Defender, we've also got the Apparatus, the Geomancer, and the Ravager. This hallway is a makeup of everything that you'll see throughout this entire next phase before the first boss. If you look at the Defender has a frontal that you do not want to point at your group. He also will cast an ability called Demoralizing Shout. Now, if you do not interrupt Demoralizing Shout, it will actually, there it is right there, it'll actually reduce your entire team's damage by 25%. You definitely don't want to let that go off. The Floating Orb, the Apparatus, will do something called the Containment Beam, just went off right there. That'll target someone, it'll root them and reduce their movement by 30% and will do damage to them. It cannot be interrupted, but it can be stunned. They will also do something called Expulse, which is big AoE damage. It can be interrupted. You want to make that a priority. The Geomancer, all he does is a simple seismic slam, puts a swirly brown thing on the ground. All you got to do is move out of it. He's not really a worry. And then you have the Ravager. Now, the Ravager, all he does is periodically increase the attack speed and movement speed of his allies. Again, throughout this whole first part of this room, you will see a repeat of only those 4 mobs: the Defender, Apparatus, Geomancer, and Ravager. The kill order that I would recommend for this is the Apparatus, the Defender, then the Geomancer, then the Ravager. That is the order at which you want to get them all down. What happens when you go down these stairs is you are presented with an option. You can go left or you can go right. Now, I will go over both of these and what they entail. If you go left, it's the same exact mobs, but when you get about halfway on the left side, there will be an item called the Limited Immortality Device. This route is the high risk, high reward. If you have someone in your party that has 25 engineering at least, they can use that Limited Immortality Device. What it does is it pretty much gives your entire party a buff for 1 hour that will give you 1 cheat death, meaning that if there was a blow that would have killed you, it actually will not kill you and you'll just be able to keep on going. It only gives everyone in your party 1 of those, but here is why it's high risk, high reward. Further on in this dungeon, it is a very, very long run back if you die. But if you go right instead, like we're doing here in this group, there is actually a shortcut to get to the frog boss and the 3rd boss. Now, the left side is mega high risk, high reward. I would really only recommend that to groups that are going to be doing super high keys with a coordinated group if you are very confident that you and your team are not going to die. I would recommend probably 99% of groups just go right here. If it's a pug, go right. You will thank me later. There is a really, really good shortcut that will save you a ton of time. I'm not exaggerating when I say the run back if you die on the 3rd boss without that shortcut is like 3 to 4 minutes. So I would really recommend you take the right side. After you down the first boss, again, you're presented with an option to either go left or right. I really recommend that most people go left. Again, that will be the MDT route in the link below. The right is very dangerous with the frogs and the stacks, which I'll explain in a little bit because it happens up this way. But the left, I really recommend. When you first get up top left here, you're going to see some troops right here, the Primalist Shock Trooper, and there's also an ad that you do not see because he's invis. I'll explain in a second. The Primalist Shock Trooper does a few things. It will do a lightning blast, which is just a casted single target ability, but then it will also have an ability called the Elemental Focus. Now this one is a big deal. If you do not interrupt the Elemental Focus, it will actually turn that mob's single target lightning blast into an AoE chain lightning. So basically he's empowering himself. You don't want him to get that off. You also notice that when I walked in here, a third mob appeared. This is the Skulking Zealot. It's pretty much a rogue that is in stealth. Note about all the zealots in this dungeon. If you memorize where they are, you can actually be able to aggro them before they will aggro you. If the tank is not aware of where these are, they will actually start off stunning the tank, which is harmful for a few reasons. One, on Fortified, he's going to do a lot of damage to the tank because he can't pop any defensives, no mitigation. But also, two, it is just going to be your DPS's just first reaction that if something is hitting your tank, you start hitting it. But the problem is, if your tank has been stunned off the bat before he can do any threat on that zealot, and your DPS start attacking it, that means that now they are going to get threat on that mob and your tank can't do anything about it. And especially on a high key Fortified, he's probably going to turn around and one-shot your DPS. So especially if you play a tank, and really everyone, be mindful of where these zealots are. And again, you can see them all in the MDT route. Now, in terms of the zealot, what does it do besides, being invis and starting off? All he does is a passive called Rising Squall, which all that does is increase his attack speed with every attack, meaning that the longer he's alive, the faster he'll be attacking and the harder he'll be hitting your tank. But besides that, as long as you're down a relevant amount of time, he's no big deal. Going down to this next hallway right here, you will see these frogs as well as another zealot. Again, you can memorize where they are so you never get caught off guard. These frogs will also be seen in the first boss, but again, we're not covering bosses in this video. Link in the description below to get that video. But these frogs will focus people, and as they're chasing them, every time that they are melee attacking someone, they will put a poison debuff on an enemy. Now you see right here, if you allow this debuff to get to 10, you will instantly die. So you want to, one, be kiting these. You can crowd control them. And of course, depending on what group makeup you have, you can cleanse these off very easily, but please keep an eye on them because if you get to 10 stacks, like I said, you will instantly die. In this next hallway, you'll see there are 3 Dragonflies. These are not difficult to deal with. All they do is an ability called Dazzle, which can be interrupted, but if the interrupts are missed, it is very simple. It's actually just a frontal that you can see me sidestepping here, that it'll only point at the tank. It's not a random frontal. So as long as the tank points it away, melee and range are not in front, then all the tank has to do is sidestep until they're dead. Very easy. Honestly, they're actually probably not even really worth interrupting unless you've got, some interrupts, because there's nothing else you really have to be afraid of. Moving down these steps, there's more Dazzle, but there's also a Zealot right here. You see that in this moment, I forgot. And what I talked about earlier about how if the tank gets stunned, one, I can't mitigate any damage, but also your DPS, it is their first reaction to start attacking. Because I use a plater profile, red means I do not have aggro, meaning aggro is now on my DPS because I forgot that ad was there. It's very important to remember where these are. So important that actually our Demon Hunter, he actually went down because I didn't have threat because I was stunned. So that's actually on me for not knowing where they were. So I encourage you, the top of these stairs is where they are. And then as you keep going down, you get both of these zealots. Then as you go into this next part of the room, you'll see, again, more Dragonflies combined with the frogs. The frogs, again, just do stacks of the poison that you want to make sure get cleansed. And the Dragonflies, you just have to sidestep or interrupt their Dazzle ability. This next group after that will have a few different mobs. The Primalist Shock Trooper. These are the ones from the top of the stairs that had the individual lightning that if you let the next ability go off, it will turn into a chain lightning. But note, there is another Zealot right here. And you can see me. I'm actually trying to bait it with my Consecrate to pull him out of threat. I was just out of range, and then dude, this dude trolled me, bro. He was just out of range of my Consecrate, and then he gets the stun on me. But you can actually avoid all of that. If I had actually just started the pull with an Avenger Shield or a range attack on the Primalist Shock Troopers, if you aggro the other mobs first, then the Zealot will actually come out of stealth before he stuns you, which is super helpful. You see us interrupting this Elemental Focus, great ROP from a Sly Guy. Those Elemental Focus, that is what turns the single chain ability into the chain lightning. So again, interrupt those. Obviously, try not to be stunned by the Zealot. and this mob is not too challenging either. Next are these two mini bosses before you get to the frog boss. Two different targets. We see Flamecaller Amy and Squallbringer Cyraz. I want to encourage you to put your focus on Flamecaller Amy. She does a few different individual casts, just need to be interrupted, but when she gets low health, she will actually start casting something that will actually heal her. The cast is called Cauterize, which will do a massive heal on her for I think about 30% if it's not interrupted. You don't really have to be afraid of Squallbringer. All he does is a whirlwind, which you just move out of, and he summons some small little adds that are not too dangerous. Tank can pick them up, and you can AoE them down. And eventually, when you do this, you get these down, it'll move you into the frog boss. Now, after this frog boss, you will run in this hallway where there are several different types of mobs and this very dangerous glacial proto dragon. Now, before we get into the mechanics, I do want to show you, there is a mushroom right here. These mushrooms, if anyone in your party has 25 herbalism, they can actually pick it up. It'll give your entire party a 30-minute buff. And what that buff does is it'll actually clear a stack of your poison every 5 seconds. So depending on what you want to do, some people actually even skip the frog boss. They will come here, kill this first mob, grab the mushroom pack again if someone has herbalism, and then go back to make that frog boss a little bit easier. But if you don't want to do that, you will start off this pull with the dragon. You can actually pull the dragon by himself. You can notice these two mobs right here, the Earthshaker and the Icecaller. Those are pats, so they don't have to be pulled together depending on what level key. If it's fortified, I'll leave that up to you. But in this video, you do see that I pulled them together because it's in a mob of 3. Now, for the Glacial Proto Dragon, few things to look out for. The dragon will do a frontal towards the tank, which tank just needs to face away. Now, the tank can't move out of it. He just has to pop a defensive and take it. You'll see the brown circle right there. That is coming from the Earthshaker. That is the only thing that the Earthshaker does. If you do not move out of that circle, it'll do damage and stun you. Now, for the other mob right here, this mob, the Icecaller, will do Refreshing Tides. You saw that go off? That is actually a heal. You want to make sure that that gets interrupted, and that will be the mobs that you will see. There's one more mob at the end of this hallway that will go over. But for the most part, that's this whole hallway. The dragon, move out of the frontal. It'll also do another ability that will do AoE damage and put a debuff on your team. There is the Earthshaker circle to move out of, and then of course the interrupt for the Icecaller, the heal that you want to get out of. Wind Buffet is another ability that comes from the Gale Slinger. This is a new mob we have not seen in the first one. All that does is just do damage to a target. Not super horrifying, but if it hits someone, especially on a high key fortified, it is going to truck them. This is an ability that is not just on the tank. It can go on anyone. So it's not AoE, it's single target, but if it hits someone, it will do massive damage. And that's really it for this hallway. It's just the same characters, same mobs over and over again. I recommend taking these packs one by one because these will get overwhelming. Now, for the final pull of this hallway, there is a lot going on here. There is at least one of each mob from this hallway. You're going to see in a second a bunch of things are going to go off at the exact same time. You're going to notice right here in just 1 second, one mob is doing Refreshing Tide, which is a heal. Another one is doing Wind Buffet, which is the individual big damage. We see that the Glacial Dragon is doing Deep Chill, which is the AoE damage and the debuff, and the Earthshaker is putting the big brown stun circle on the ground. A lot of coordination going on here. The only one here that is easily avoidable is the brown circle to move out of. We have to focus especially the interrupt on Refreshing Tide as a heal, and the Deep Chill is unavoidable AoE damage that, as you see in a second, will also put a debuff on the entire team, slowing them down and doing a lot of damage. I would recommend holding your offensive cooldowns for this group. Tank, definitely hold your defensive cooldowns for this. And of course, all while is going to be the frontal from the dragon as well. Lots going on here. Another Wind Buffet, another Earthshaker circle. So this is definitely going to be the hardest pull out of that entire hallway. You see my health going real low. I'm popping defensives, health pot, all that good stuff. You see a many of our friends going low. This is 17. So I even started kiting at one point. Another Deep Chill coming out with AoE. Again, there's the debuff on the whole team. Thankfully, we get it down, but that is definitely the scariest pull in that hallway. This is the final hallway of the entire dungeon, and this is unique because it is a gauntlet, meaning that these mobs will not stop spawning until you kill the mini boss at the very end, which we will go over. Starting off, we have these Aqua Ragers. These do not hit too hard, but If you let them get their ability off, which you'll see in a second, which is their only cast they do at normal health, Boiling Rage, if you do not interrupt that, it'll actually enrage them and they'll start doing more damage. So you want to make sure to interrupt those, stun them. You see a blind just went off right there. Now at lower health, before they die, they will start casting Tidal Divergence. If you do not interrupt this, which it's a pretty long cast, it's over 5 seconds long, so you have plenty of time. But if you do not get it off, they will split into 4 smaller adds with 100% health. So they will multiply. You want to make sure to interrupt those before you get into the next group. We're going to kill those, get to the next group. Here's a cool little trick that you can do. You can see what I'm doing right here is I'm putting my back up against this pillar. But the Primalist Earthshaker, this mob is important to note, especially if you're going to do the trick I'm doing right here. You notice that I put my back up against this wall. The whole party can join you, especially melee. I put my back up against this wall. The reason that is because if your back is against that wall, then you don't need to worry about these water tornado things. They will literally just go right through you. But I said it's important to note the Earthshaker here, because remember, the Earthshaker does the brown circle, which stuns you. So even though we're trying to stack against this wall to kind of cheese the water tornadoes, if you do not move out of this circle, then you will be stunned. So you notice us stack against the wall, we get the circle, we move out of it, but then as soon as it's gone, we go right back. Again, interrupting the refreshing tide from the healer, and then we go right back to it. And you'll notice, see how they're just going right through my body. Everybody can do this on every single pillar. Again, goes right through me. We interrupt the divergence so that they don't split into 4. Another circle from the Earthshaker, and we're moving out. If you just put your back here and move your camera, it'll be easy peasy. Now, you see me putting a skull there to notify my team. You guys can all stack here, but I, as the tank, am not going to stack here. Here's my mindset going into this poll. This dragon, I know, does a frontal. So, although it'd be very convenient for me to put my back against that wall so I don't have to worry about these tornadoes, it would be very selfish of me to be able to put my back there for 2 reasons. 1, I'm going to hit everyone with a frontal. But 2, I could be like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to stand on the pillar and I'll take the frontal. The rest of you guys be over here dodging tornadoes left and right. Casters get interrupted. Healer have a hard time healing. Or I could take the big man's way, right? And I could stand out in the open, let the rest of my team stay still, not have to move, and all you're gonna see me do is I'm just strafing left and right whenever those things come. Very, very easy. Make sure to watch out for the debuff that comes from Deep Chill, interrupt Tidal Divergence. This pull is not very difficult if you let the rest of your team stack on Skull, and make sure if you're a tank as well, obviously you're keeping the mob within range so that your teammates can destroy them. Now it is time for the mini boss before the final boss. This mini boss really has 3 major mechanics. You'll see in a second. First ability is Inundate. This is just AoE damage that goes out. Another ability that she does is this Aqueous Barrier. If you do not interrupt that, she will put a barrier on herself that you have to burn through before you start doing raw damage to the actual boss. Last ability that she'll do that you need to watch out for, especially if you are doing the back to the pillar trick, which I really recommend you do. This ability is called Flash Flood. You notice as she's casting it, there is that blue circle. You want to get out of that, not only because it will do a lot of damage, but it will actually knock you away from her. And if you are standing on the sides, it will actually knock you off the platform. You won't die from that, but you'll go into like a little bubble, and it'll actually teleport you all the way back to the beginning of the gauntlet, meaning you'll have to run all the way back, losing a ton of uptime in the boss. And if you are the healer, then you are not going to be able to heal that whole time. And if you're the tank, then obviously the boss is going to start hitting your friends. So very easy. Stand against this pillar, interrupt the shield. Inundate is unavoidable AoE damage. You can pop a defensive if you'd like, but make sure to get out of Flash Flood. That is really the one that's going to hurt your team. Well, friends, it's everything you need to know about all of the trash mob in Halls of Infusion. Again, if you want to learn the boss mechanics, link in the description below where I go over those advanced tips and tricks to do those bosses from every single role and perspective. If you guys enjoy this type of content, be sure to subscribe to this channel, and also join me live on Twitch, where not only do I play with the community, but we do Mythic Plus carries, and even you guys get a chance to actually be featured in these videos. I want to say a massive thank you for watching this video, and of course all of you that subscribe on Patreon, helping us take this content further and making a positive impact in the gaming community. Links in the description below. Join our Discord, all the good stuff. We'll see you in the next one.